Hey there, I'm Nicholas Dubois, co-founder of Advanced SimRacing. We are a Canadian company. So what we did here today is for a real petrol head. He's really passionate about cars, as you can see behind me. We did a turnkey solution for him based on his needs. We try to gather as much information as we can on our client. And like we did today, we install a D-box system. We install ultra-wide cube control steering wheel. We try to provide the best quality for your budget. So let's say if you want a budget of 10 grand, we're gonna give you something that's the best for 10 grand. If you want 20 grand, then we always try to stay within your boundaries. We do try to make it as easy as possible. So the client, once we install everything, it's pretty much gonna be a turnkey. So he's gonna press start on his computer, and right after, we'll try to explain everything, how it goes, how it works, and then he's ready to go. Our aluminum is from USA, treated in Canada, cut in Canada. So we do sand all our aluminum piece just to make sure the powder coat sticks to it. And that's one of the reasons why we use powder coat, is to make sure you have the best aluminum finish in the industry. And our quality is beyond what you can get with any other competitors right now. We are really, really passionate about all the gear, all the cockpits, all the sim hardware, and that's why we want to create something that's really gonna reflect our passion into our product. Come visit us at advancedsimracing.com. You can always reach us if you have any questions. You can call us, you can text us, you can go on Facebook, like our page, ask us questions over there, and we'll make sure to answer every questions there is. We are very passionate about what we do, and we try to make it as easier for you to go into the sim racing world, because there's a lot of gear, there's a lot of options, but let us guide you through your process, and let's hope you'll be an Advanced Sim Racing customer.
Hey guys, welcome to ASR. I'm Nick, this is Marc-Andre.
Hey everybody, so we're just here to announce that in this current season of PRL, we'll be giving away 2 ASR 3s to 2 lucky winners. So stay competitive, keep racing fair, and may the best man win.
last week, the championship favorites extended their points leads. After Raymond Day's race ended with a mid-race crash for a second consecutive week, Alex Fournier picked up his third straight pro victory at the virtual circuit of Spa-Francorchamps. Meanwhile, on the AM side of the paddock, after several rivals crashed early, Michael Broomhead walked away with his second-class win in 3 rounds. And now, with the season quickly approaching crunch time, they'll be both looking to clinch themselves some championship hardware tonight. This is round 9 of the PRL Open Wheel Series, live from the virtual Circuit Park Zandvoort on the Global SimRacing channel. Good evening, everyone. My name's Justin Prince. Alongside me in the booth tonight is DJ Clark. Behind the scenes, our director Joe Peak, and he's using cameras provided by the great Dougie Beard. Now today takes us to the pre-2019 version of this Dutch circuit. During the PRL's Amateur Series for this car last season, it was Kevin Santana who beat Michael Broomhead by almost 5 whole seconds. Now for today, we get to learn about this venue with our GSRC track guide.
Welcome to Zandvoort. This track just to the west of Amsterdam fell into obscurity, but is getting new life in recent times thanks to a resurgence of Formula One fans in the country. Back in the mid-20th century, it hosted the Formula One Dutch Grand Prix for nearly 30 years. Granted, it was on a much faster and more flowing layout. Nowadays, the 5 different versions which are available to be run are mostly tight and technical. The shortest one is a little under a mile, while even the longest only stretches to a little over 2.5 miles. These tiny lengths, plus the narrowness of the track and its lack of long straights, make passing almost maddeningly difficult. The 2 most common spots are Tarzan, which is the first corner, and Hans Ernst, which is the final chicane. Even though it has recently been updated in the real world with more banking, even on the old track here on iRacing it has an unusual amount of camber for a road course. The 2 aforementioned turns, along with Hugenholtz and Schieflock, allow drivers to carry more speed than you'd expect. It also gives drivers a chance to take slightly unusual lines. Like most old-school tracks, runoff is minimal. Mistakes in a few of the faster turns tend to allow no time for recovery and a big repair bill. Another unique quality is the fact that Zandvoort is literally next to the beach on the North Sea. Therefore, the sand easily blows its way onto the track surface and lessens grip. It's a tricky place to race, and even trickier circuit to win at. But with the beautiful surroundings, great history, and a mob of enthusiastic fans donning orange, you can't help but want to go visit this fantastic venue.
That was a look at our GSRC track guide for Circuit Park Zandvoort. Now DJ, when it comes to today's circuit, it's changed a lot in the current day, but for this layout, it's a particularly complex one to master. How do you feel these drivers will do today in their F3 cars around this circuit?
Well, they're going to be in for a real challenge here, Justin, in particular because of the fact that there's only one really clear, surefire passing zone, and that's going down into that first corner of Tarzan. From there on out, it's going to be a lot of follow the leader. Now, we have seen some passes maybe coming through Masters or down into Hans Ernst, but that's going to require a lot of bravery from these drivers. I think a lot of what we are going to see today is kind of what we've seen from this series in the mid-pack, which is just trying to force that driver ahead of you into a little bit of a mistake, seeing if you can force yourself forward with that pressure. There's a lot of fast, medium speed corners around here. You've got to be very, very careful, and you've got to really watch out for the arrow wake, specifically coming through Kumho and Erie Lyondike. Those are 2 corners that that displaced air can really throw the car off, and you can find yourself in the kitty litter if you're not careful.
That's going to be very tricky to be able to drive around for today. Let's put it that way. When it comes to the balance these competitors will need to have to come away with the victory. Now, we'd like to take the time to remind you that our broadcast is brought to you by ASR, owned and operated by passionate SimRacers. Advanced SimRacing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminum profile racing simulation cockpits available on the market today. Visit them at advancedsimracing.com.
It's also sponsored by RaceLab. RaceLab helps you to improve your driving skills. With modern overlays, race statistics, and native VR integration, you can get the best out of iRacing. Start using it now for free at racelab.app.
Today's broadcast is also proudly sponsored by ButtKicker. ButtKicker products add an incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Check them out at thebuttkicker.com.
Today's event is also brought to you by SimMSA. Simulation Motorsports Affinity provides many consulting services, from completely customizing simulators to managing teams, individual drivers, and complete events. They're working hard to bring everyone together at one place to support and promote sim racing internationally. Find out how you can bridge the gap between virtual and real motorsports at SIMMSA.net.
And finally, the PRL Open Wheel Series is brought to you by NinjaTrader. Ready to compete against the financial markets? Supporting more than 60,000 users across the globe, NinjaTrader provides award-winning trading software and brokerage services. NinjaTrader is always free to use for advanced charting, backtesting, and trade simulation. Visit ninjatrader.com to get started with a risk-free trading simulator and start tracking your performance. Now, today is going to be pressure-packed for some. For others, it's a chance to be able to take home the hardware for the season championship. So let's take a look first at your pro standings entering today, where it's Alex Fournier with a 39-point advantage over Byron Daly of NinjaTrader Esports, his pro team. Keep this in mind. Essentially, for Byron Daly to have any sort of shot for the finale, to have a battle for the title, he needs to outscore Fournier by at least 2 points. Meaning, if Fournier is able to outscore Daly, championship likely becomes clinched tonight. Then you have Julia Lacio in third, then Day, Roddy rounding out the top 5. That's a look once again at your pro standings, and it's a similar situation, DJ, in term for the AM standings too.
It is indeed, Justin, a little bit closer at the top with Takashi Kita sitting 37 points back of Broomhead. But if Broomhead is able to maximize today and walk out of here 38 points ahead of Kita, that means he will clinch. It is a pretty tight battle, though, for the rest of that AM field for second, with Ridgeway only a couple of points back of Takeshi. Christopher Richards certainly within striking distance, and Brett Barrett for that NinjaTrader Esports AM team. He's about 15 points back, so he's going to need a little bit of help to be able to challenge for second, but it's not out of the question.
Keep in mind that 3 of those drivers you mentioned after Broomhead had major incidents at Spa last week. Also having a major incident at Spa was Day, and how big was that incident? It cost his team the points lead. Yes, Tanya iSports now is in the points lead, 404 points over NinjaTrader Esports Pro. That is a swing of nearly 20 plus points that went in their direction. Atomic Racing in turn is now within 10 points. They're third. Lone Trendy Racing and NinjaTrader Esports and its AM drivers rounding up the top 5. To say at the very least, DJ, the rough luck for some of the drivers recently have made that team battle also very close as we get ready to look at your race details.
We have indeed, and for longtime viewers of the series, you will recognize these race details. It is the 9th of 10 rounds here, so we're in the penultimate round. It'll be a 27-lap race here with a standing start. Open setups are allowed, so that's really where your teammates come into play during all of this. You will get a drive-through penalty at 13 incidents and disqualification at 17. That's crucial around here. It's very easy to run a little bit wide and pick up those nasty 1Xs. But here is the important thing when it comes to those championships, Justin, and that is the bonus points. You get 35 points for a win, but you can pick up an additional point for pole, fastest lap, or if you're able to escape with 3 incidents or less.
Those are going to be definitely kept an eye on a lot throughout today. As we take a look now at your qualifying, about halfway, make it under 10 minutes, should say, in the qualifying session. Day is currently in second with a 127.810. However, it is Lacio who has the best time, a 127.767. That was set within the first 5 minutes of the session. And you may notice, though, today, DJ, the weather conditions are very cloudy. In fact, it's mostly cloudy skies currently.
It is indeed, Justin. There you can see that the clouds keeping that track temperature down. It's a very chilly 67 degrees with about 8 miles an hour of wind coming out of the southwest. Now, that can be a pretty interesting blow there, so drivers are going to have to be careful of that. We've seen how aero-sensitive these cars can be. The one good bit of news with 55% humidity, that means there's going to be a little more air pushing down on these cars, and that means that they'll have a little bit more downforce at their disposal.
Going to be very helpful indeed for some of these drivers to see if that's going to end up helping them. As we take a look at Ridgway, he is in fact the highest ranking AM driver in qualifying with a 128 flat. Michael Broomhead second on the board for the AM side, 7th overall, about a 10th or so back. But look who's up there in 3rd for the AM side, the number 91 machine. We didn't see last week any of the Coffrays hit the racetrack. How about Juan Coffray? Rounding up the top 3 on that side for the AM side, as we see him now on the circuit.
Indeed, we see him out there, Juan, currently in 8th right now. It's a very, very good showing for Coffray, as he is currently leading that battle of the Coffrays that we like to talk about every week or so, as we see them all on out there. Coming his way right now through that Hans Ernst corner. That's a very, very tight and tricky corner. Has a little bit of banking as you make your way through the left-hander. You can carry some pretty decent speed through there, but you got to be careful, so those curves can come out to bite you.
That's an understatement, let's put it that way. As these drivers continue to circulate around, keep in mind as well, DJ, that for many of them, it's also going to be about, as you mentioned, staying out of the kitty litter, but also for a lot of these competitors, trying to find a bit of slipstream. I've seen plenty of the drivers try and stick behind one another, in fact, to be able to get some pull down the straightaways, it seems, in qualifying.
Indeed, Justin, and we were seeing some of those drivers topping out at around 154, 155, mainly down that long pit straight as we ride on board with Robert Ridgway here. That up ahead of him is the 22nd place car of Adam McDonald. Now he's going to be a little far back to pick up that toe, but that toe is what I think is going to lead to passing throughout this race. That's really what we want to be looking for, is if you're able to keep close coming off of Ari Lyondike there, as Takeshi Kita just did, unable to better his time there, by the way, but keep up that speed and keep up that distance behind the driver in front of you.
Here's a look at Fournier, currently 4th in qualifying in the Team Chazoo machine. 127.875, just a 10th or so off the initial pole mark currently. And keep this in mind as well, this track vastly different than what was seen in the real world with the Dutch Grand Prix in its blueprints initially for 2020's debut before being pushed back essentially to 2021. A lot has changed here, especially with the utilization of banking for the real world facility these days.
Indeed, it has, Justin. The two biggest areas that you now see the change here around Zandvoort are going through Hugenholtz, that corner we actually just saw Alex Fournier go through. There's a lot more banking there. And then, of course, there is the now infamous banking coming through Ari Lyondike. And what the reason for putting that in there is in order to keep speeds up around the banking. That centrifugal force, when you're up on the banking, it pulls the car into the track a little bit more, and you can keep your speeds up and get a better draft coming down the main straight. That was the purpose that was installed. Now, it obviously doesn't have it here on the sim right now, and so drivers are going to have to fight all that much harder to try to stay behind one another.
Now, as these continued circulations hop on up, it's worth noting that one of the drivers towards the bottom of the board is currently off the racetrack. It's been an interesting time for the driver, the number 16, for the past couple weeks, because when it comes to David Hebert, had the good side of news, where celebrating 10th wedding anniversary last week, missed that race, but this week got bad news to follow up the good ones.
He did indeed, Justin. David lost his father, unfortunately, this week. Mel Louis Hebert, who was a big, big supporter of David. He passed away on the 17th, and was a huge, huge sports fan. Loved being able to watch really any kind of sports, and all of us here at GSRC send our thoughts and condolences to David and the rest of the Hebert family.
Again, a tough situation for him entering today personally. As some of these drivers continue to try and put themselves into better positions on the track itself. Here you're seeing Steven Ritters on the circuit really starting to bobble about and lock up some of these tires a little bit, in fact, going through the back and forth sections.
Indeed, but we check over on Stephen Verity right now, currently in 4th, and we're pretty close up at the top here, Justin. The top 5 cars only separated by 49 thousandths of a second as of right now. Very, very, very close. Excuse me, it's a 600ths of a second there between those top boys. So very, very close all the way across. I think that's going to make for some very interesting battles, especially when this race gets going.
I think so, especially with so many drivers very close in pace, but it's going to be so critical in turn to be able to carry that pace over to the race and play the strategy game right here. And for a lot of cases, you need that track position to be able to execute your strategy, hence the importance of qualifying well.
Yeah, indeed. I think this is going to be a little bit more of a track position race than we saw last time out at Spa, with the difficulty to overtake, as you mentioned. And also, frankly, because of the fact that there are parts of this twisting Dutch circuit that almost act like a street track. The walls are right up close to you, specifically coming through places like Hugenholtz and around some of the longer corners. So drivers want to be towards the front end of the field.
Checker flag now waving. A couple drivers will be able to complete their current runs. Day is amongst them in the 77. Coming around the final corners right now to Ari Leindijk. See what Day's able to try and do. Had a 1:27.8 early on in the session. In fact, on his 12th lap, he elects to pull it into the pit lane, happy with his track position. Verity is also still trying to keep on going. Will he try and put it in our time? He's thinking about it. No, he ducks on into the pit lane. And it looks like at the very least, for these drivers, that pit lane could be a dangerous entry today, based on what we see as some of the drivers crash into the Armco, in fact, there.
Exactly. That attenuator there in the middle will definitely come out to bite some of these drivers, so they've got to be very, very careful on that pit entry. Pit exit, pretty easy, just feeds you right back out onto track. You've just got to be careful of anybody coming behind you. So we watch Jonathan Almanar, the last car on track. Looks like he's going a little bit slow there, so this lap clearly not good for the O2.
Funnily enough, I noticed on that car it has that Dutch orange on it, on that race car today, as he continues to get things sorted out to look exactly where these marks are around this racetrack. And it looks like he's basically doing a track tour of sorts while he's got clean track to see, okay, how are these corners going to fare out before he takes the green flag?
Exactly. May just be testing out a little bit how the car feels going through those final corners under slow speed, because that will be something he'll have to manage maybe at some point. But he's going to come on into the pits, and that is going to be every driver out on track. Justin, we've got a grid.
Yes, indeed. That's the last of all the drivers in terms of our qualifying times. They have about 20 seconds to sort themselves out before they have to reach the starting grid for tonight's action. Your quick thoughts before we head towards those starting spots.
Be careful into turn one. It can be a real schmozzle, and I don't think any of that action is going to get done by the time we get to Hugenholtz. Just everybody needs to be patient here today, as trying to go a little bit too aggressive can cost you early.
Drivers are now getting the opportunity to pull their cars onto the racetrack for tonight's start. Let's quickly take a look at how to begin tonight's action. PRL action will see Placio on the pole. 1:27.767, set that on lap 9 in the first 5 minutes of the session. He was able to hold off Alex Fournier. Byron Day and Verity start in row 2, with Byron Daly in 5th position. Robert Ridgway starts in 6th position. He leads the M class in drivers. Kechikita in 7th. Michael Broomhead starts in 8th position. Then it's the first of the Cofrays. Juan and Michael start in 9th and 10th.
In 11th place, it's going to be Jonathan Almanar, followed by Tyler Scarali flanking him, with Christopher Richards and Joey Tevin making up row 7. Stephen Ritters will be 15th, followed by Manuel Vargas, with Nick Horvath 17th and Sean Duhamel in 18th. James Carter will line up 19th, and rounding out your top 20, it is Roberto Cofre.
James Holman has a special driver on the box once more. The first winner in series history here in David Holland will start 21st with Adam McDonald 22nd. Gunderson and Gore start 23rd and 24th respectively, with Dave Peterson in 25th. Owen McLaughlin starts in 26th. Daniel Barnett, Anthony Byron, along with Donald Wilson, rounding out the 29 drivers expected to take the green lights in just a few moments. The rest of these drivers just getting ready to get rolling here, waiting on 2 final cars before the green lights go out. Make it 1. All of them have now made their way to the starting grid as we're ready to go racing. The pre-ultimate race of the season where the Precision Racing League and its open wheel series is ready to go. We're underway from Zandvoort.
We are indeed. That was a brilliant start from Alex Fournier. He's going to take a look up to the inside here as the field fans out behind him. It's a two-way fight going into turn 1, but Fournier backs off.
Lazio holds on in front of the 194. Fournier holds on to second position. Several drivers still trying to sort themselves out, some nearly 3 wide, heading towards the start of Sector 2.
Heading towards Sector 2, there's a little bit of brake lock up there going through Hugenholtz, but I don't see any cars off quite yet. Oh no, there they are spinning around. It looks like that may be Duhamel. I think Peterson may be involved as well.
That's about the entire back third of the field that has just crashed. Tyler Gore, several others with problems on the first lap of the race. Towards the front though, it stays clean, with Lazio continue to hold on as they now enter Sector 3, making their way through Bach 9 and Bach 10.
Indeed they do. Palacios trying to stretch his legs out a little bit. He wants to keep ahead of Alex Fournier if at all possible, as now we get on to the backstretch portion of this track, going down to that tricky right-left chicane that is Hans Ernst.
Off through the curbing once more they go. Placio looking comfortable early on in this one. 27 laps up on the board. He currently holds on for the race lead by 8/10 coming to the end of the first circuit around. Good launch for the 194. We'll see him lead lap 1. One driver's off the track. It's Kita. Kita with a big mistake in the Atomic Racing car.
And that has massive championship implications. Remember, he's one of the ones that's trying to close down on Juan Cofre in front of him. So Kita not looking great there. That's going to plunge him back down the order all the way to 14th.
Rough break there and a big mistake early on. Broomhead now second in AM class. Michael Cofre has already been passed by several others, as was Byron Daly when it comes to the pro drivers by some of the AM competitors. Keep in mind, where it is becoming a bit of a hornet's nest. Amongst that battle, 7th on back is worth noting compared to the top 3 who have already ran away by 2 seconds.
Indeed they have. We focus in on that hornet's nest there. That is Cofre working around, trying to find something, anything, as they make their way into Schlievelock. Hey, got to be very careful there, especially with the aero wash like I talked about. The car wants to understeer off at that point. But, a good run for Cofre. He's going to be challenging there a little bit.
Trying to make it work on the outside line in the 14. Trying to get the pole now, this time on Broomhead. Back and forth for 6 overall on the racetrack. Now making their way to Hans Ernst. Michael Cofre outbreaks him and an air car tries to send it. That is Byron Daly making the move.
It is indeed Byron, one of the pro drivers, the farthest starting down pro driver, eager to get his way forward, and he is down 2 positions as of now. So he is now past Broomhead, and Broomhead, meanwhile, has got to watch his rearview mirror because that is going to be Juan Cofre all up of his exhaust.
First fast laps are now coming in. Placio currently with the best time overall, as you see that battle still going on for 7th. Juan Cofre now joining the fray. You have several other competitors, including some of the teammates, now trying to find a way around. Grawley is now amongst those cars fighting to catch up to his teammate in Broomhead just up the road. Here's a look for the back end now with some of these cars, including Daly.
Indeed, and keep your eyes out for Tyler Scarali. He has had some very aggressive and awesome, spectacular passing moves this year, so he'll be one to watch out for. Loses a little bit of time as they all make their way around. Ooh, that was Cofre almost off, and that was Scarali completely off. That is commentator's curse if I've ever heard it.
Perfect timing for the 26 machine. Drops him on back to the edge of the top 11 now. As a result of note, Joey Tevin is already up to 12th. Apparently, was not able to put in any entire time officially after setting his initial fast lap in qualifying. To clarify that, he had technically put in 5 but couldn't reach the same pace he put in qualifying, as the car behind him is Christopher Richards for Eagle Vision Racing.
Indeed, and Richards looked like he was closing there a little bit coming down the straightaway, but just not close enough to be able to make that very aggressive move like we saw Coffret do down into Hans Ernst. Now he's going to have to line it up again. And Justin, I've been listening to Richards here. I think he may have his gearing off in that 49 machine. It sounds like he's bouncing off the rev limiter.
Take a listen. Yeah, he just bounced on it right there before the braking zone.
So that is not good. That clearly means that that car is set up to run in clean air, and he did not expect to be qualifying this far down in the order. Ooh, big lock up there from him as well. Looks like Richard's car just a bit of a handful today, and he's really having to scrap for it.
Just major issues there for his machine, as now we'll have to see how the rest of the race plays out for him in turn. As you see, things continue to get tight. Speaking of which, he too has stayed pretty tight on the racetrack. Fournier staying about 1.5 seconds or so within Placio's draft, but Raymond Day, similar to the past few weeks, staying in the shadows of the 116.
Indeed, he is just slowly but surely trying to see what pressure he can apply. That's exactly what we talked about here, and he needs to try to push Fournier down if at all possible. The lower down Fournier finishes, the closer this battle will be coming into the final race.
See that interval now between second and third up to now 0.6 of a second. As mentioned, there was a major issue at the back of the field, though, that has really split things up. About 17th on back is around at least 6 seconds back of the main packs. This is how things formed up and why 4 drivers are already out of the race, and a 5th had more than 1.5 minutes of damage repair. And you'll watch as this is absolute pandemonium here, because this is really towards several facets in this grouping. You see some of the smoke up the road, then the contact here.
Yeah, that was Gore getting tipped around, and then you can see Duhamel getting collected. I'm not sure who that car was in the middle, but this is what I talked about here, Justin, with this almost being the street circuit, just how tight and narrow the track is through there. Almost nowhere to go for some of those drivers who were caught up behind.
And entire teams, in fact, entire same liveries corrected and collected in that. Here's Barnett's look. 24th place now on the racetrack since then.
Yeah, and all of that incident just happening in front of him. He's able to clear by it relatively well and sneak on past. I believe that was Coffret. He was able to go by, and there's Scarali off into the grass. So very lucky to be able to get around all of that, but he is still running 24th.
Looking now around some of these drivers as some tempers flaring now for Broomhead. Apparently he just got hit.
Yeah, he got a little bit of a love tap from Coffret behind him going down into Hans Ernst, but now Coffret going onto the inside of Ari Lyondike. That's going to set up a drag race down the main stretch.
Broomhead not going to want to give that up, but it looks like he's lifting a little bit down the straightaway here. Coffret makes the move. He did warn the 91, keep in mind though, over the radio, DJ, do not hit me again.
Yeah, Broomhead knows what he is going for. He wants that championship. There it is. I gotta say that was a little too overeager for Coffret. Did look like Broomhead may have backed up the corner a little bit, but watch that. Yeah, we're gonna ride on board with him here, Justin. I mean, I'd call this probably a racing incident more than anything.
Now you see right here. You can hear the amount of contact there. He's lucky that his wing isn't significantly damaged. Coffret is.
Indeed, Justin. I'm looking at it right now. I don't think there's any major damage to it, but that was just a heads-up play to be able to get that over-under and cut down to the inside, and it does lead him ahead.
So Broomhead now back to 9th position. As we now look up the road, Michael Coffret having a stellar race so far, now up into the top 5. But having to hold off a couple fast drivers behind. Robert Ridgway, quick in the AM class, leads that side. But Byron Daly, he's trying to recover from a rough start to the race, DJ.
He is indeed, and he's been able to claw his way back up. Remember, he started in P5. He now wants to get past Coffre to be back in that starting position. Takes a look going down to Tarzan. Not going to be enough daylight there for him to do it. We may see something a little bit aggressive here into Hugenholtz, but he has got to be careful. We saw on that first lap what can happen if you get over-eager into this banked left-hander.
Now making the way through Hugenholtz, this time off to Ontarug now, down the straightaway. Not close enough to make a lunge quite yet. Keep in mind, though, this grouping has already lost more than 3 seconds to the next pack. And for Daly to have a shot here, there's a chance he might have to be able to try and see what he can do in clean air here and try and push.
Yeah, he really does just need to try to push the best that he can. And this is where that setup does come into play. Remember, as I talked about, you can set up this car to run a little bit better in clean air, or you can set it to run a little better in dirty air. And if you're going to plan on running in dirty air, you're probably going to have a longer 6th gear, so you're not going to be slamming off that rev limiter like we saw out of, I believe it was Richards earlier.
Yes, indeed it was. Coming up to 20 laps to go already, this time by. Broomhead has already lost another position. Now it's Steven Ritters who has made a move. Broomhead looking like he's struggling in that number 5 machine. Not what I think he may have wanted to see here.
No, not at all, and a little bit uncharacteristic of Broomhead. We're normally used to seeing him really just gain momentum as the race goes along, and he just is getting past here very, very speedily by Ritters down to the inside of Hans Ernst. Broomhead doesn't fight him too much.
So now Broomhead's all the way to the back end of the top 10 overall-wise on the racetrack. Of note behind him, Joey Tevin has just passed his teammate Scrawley around the left side of the racetrack, going through that tight section there. So it almost looks like the whole team just cannot seem to get their feet under them here in this one. As the battle's going up the road, Daly is in trouble, and he's brought Michael Coffre with him.
You can see they're losing that front wing. That is some big damage between Daly and Coffre. Looks like Daly came off the worst. Let's go back and check out the replay, Justin.
And keep in mind, this is a very tight section to try and make a move like this. It is a possible area, but you had Daly on the inside, Coffre on the outside. One comes down to the other, and off to the sand trap they go.
Let's watch this from above, Justin. My initial instinct there is that Coffre chopped that corner off. It looked like Daly was up alongside. There they flick through that left-hander coming up through Schleevlock here. Yeah, that's an opening.
There it is right there, the come down.
Yeah, I got to put that a little bit on Coffre.
And that is significant damage. Coffre's had to tow, and that may be championship said and done right there. Especially with Daly needing strong points. Daly having to come down to the pit lane since he doesn't even have the base of the front wing anymore. Absolutely huge.
Yeah, big time. And even if he is get that repaired, I'd be worried a little bit about suspension damage to the right side of that car, or left side of that car, where he made contact with Coffre. So even if he does get this nose on, it's still going to be a tough day.
Michael Coffre now officially out of the race as a result of that. Now 5 DNFs. Question is, will Byron Daly try and finish this one out? Meanwhile, Placio continues to lead. He's been running about half a tenth quicker than Alex Fournier on average the past 5 laps. So that pace has continued to progress on forward for the 194.
It has indeed. There is your lap comparison. There's been a couple of little givebacks here and there, but relatively minuscule. And I can tell you that Palacio seems like he's really getting some good speed through the middle of the track, sectors 2, 3, and 4. That seems to be where he is able to gain time over Fournier behind him.
Can confirm Byron Daly out of the race. He is out of the race car, meaning with him now parking his car now into the paddock stall, his day is done. And Alex Fournier essentially can already start celebrating, not the way I think he'd want this to play out, DJ, but Fournier is now in the driver's seat with his main rival going to essentially score much lower points at minimum.
Yeah, exactly. Alex now just has to keep all 4 wheels on the black stuff at this point, and he will be ostensibly crowned champion by the end of tonight. So good run for him. He'll be very, very pleased with that. Oh, as we've got a car off there, that's Richards.
Yes, indeed. Richards and Kita were the two who tangled together in the battle for 12th position. Getting this off to Tarzan as Richards, remember, has been on the rev limiter for a decent amount of time. Left them up for grabs here, and these cars, keep in mind, they do not take bumping in the corners well.
No, they're not exactly stock cars. You can't bump draft down into there. It looked like Kita just was a hair late on the braking, got into Richards and spun him. Although it doesn't look like too much damage to Richards. I'm taking a look there at Takeshi Kita's machine. He definitely has some damage to the right front of that front wing, but that should be very easily fixable. Probably about maybe 5 seconds longer in the pits and he'll be fine.
And almost is starting to look a bit like the AM battle for Circuit of Spa-Francorchamps all of a sudden, DJ, where things started looking okay from the get-go, and then the attrition hit, and Broomhead came out as the main person to be able to build up points from all the attrition from drivers like Kita.
Exactly, but the problem here for Broomhead is he is going the wrong way. After getting off to that great start, he is just dropping down the order, and he's already about 2 seconds off of Steven Ritters ahead of him, and about 1.5 seconds ahead of Scarali behind him, and it looks like Scarali's able to close in a little bit. He's been putting in some personal best sectors, and was about 0.3 of a second faster than Broomhead on that last lap.
And that's huge to mention, keep in mind, because looking towards, on top of things, not just the pace for Ritters, but the pace for Ridgeway in the points for said Ridgeway. Ridgeway was one of the few who actually finished well in the class, in the championship favorite window for the M class. Ridgeway, with what he's doing right now, he essentially is putting himself back into the mathematical position to keep the battle alive here by around 35-ish points if things hold.
Yeah, indeed he is. This is exactly what Ridgeway needed to do to try to keep this championship fight alive. By the way, that car on your screen was Christopher Richards coming down through pit lane. It looked like, not entirely sure what happened there for that. Oh, excuse me, it was Owen McLaughlin. Yes. It was a regular stop for Owen McLaughlin.
A 4.7, in fact, DJ, and that gets us to the next questions to think about. How do you play the strategy game? Because if the window's open now for someone towards the back, how far can you push it on forward? With especially the trends last race showing drivers really tried to extend the run as far as they could.
Well, I think here, unlike Spa, this is a lot going to be more about track position where you come out of the pits. And it's not necessarily going to favor an undercut or an overcut outright. You've got to look at where your car is going to filter out. If you can come out in clean air and run some good, fast laps, why not come in about now? This is the beginning of that pit stop window. I don't anticipate any tire changes here. Track temperature still relatively chilly at about 67 degrees Fahrenheit, so it's not like this rubber is coming off. As we see another driver coming down pit lane, that's James Carter.
Here's a look at those temperatures you're referring to. 67 Fahrenheit currently, the track temperature, a little bit cooler from earlier, but the driver you're talking about, that was not a scheduled stop. That was one of the Atomic Racing machines, and James Carter, who ended up ripping his front wing off by crashing into an Armco barrier. He was running 15th last time by the stripe. So another one bites the dust here at Zandvoort.
Indeed, he does. Riding on board there with Coffray as he tries to challenge in on Robert Ridgeway in front. Verity, though, setting the fastest lap of the race. So that is interesting. He's starting to close in on the back of Fournier. Very close to the back of Fournier.
That pace continuing to look quicker and quicker as the fuel burns off for that machine. It's the matter, though, of will the 04 be able to make the pass now on Fournier to the rear wing to the point where he nearly ran him over. He was so quick in the corner.
He was indeed. He has got so much more speed. He has been closing in by about 0.3 of a second on average over the past 3 laps, has Verity. So he is definitely coming on strong here. They don't want to battle too much. That is Raymond Day in 4th place behind them. He's only about 1.3 seconds back, so he can close this down if he sees the need to.
So they can't afford to really squabble too much, especially not just for the car behind, but the fact that Fournier has lost about a second now, plus since the last time we checked the interval fully compared to Placio. So if you battle for too long, DJ, that may go down even more as Verity elects to just run through part of the grass.
Yeah, just got that left front tire out onto the grass ever so slightly. Didn't cause any wheel spin, so he'll be happy about that. Now, as they get onto the main straightaway, watching those top speeds, it is definitely favoring Verity, and he's going to dive to the inside. Coming down into Tarzan, that is move done and dusted. It didn't look like Fournier fought him all that much.
That was a Tarzan-style move to be able to make the pass right into the corner. So Verity, one of the quickest drivers, in fact, the quickest times on the racetrack, now looks to test that here to try and see if he can close up to Palacio for that battle for the race lead. The problem is, the gap is now 3.1 seconds.
It is indeed, and part of that is because he lost some time, obviously squabbling with Fournier on that last lap, but there you can see that comparison between Palacio and Verity. He has been getting quicker. Verity has on 10, 11, and 12. He was faster than your leader, and I've got to think now that he is clear of Alex Fournier, he's going to keep on pushing.
Meanwhile, in our news, Joey Tevin in the Atomic Racing Machine did a little bit of landscaping. After coming into this lap, 10th position, he spun it around in the middle of the bank corner.
Indeed, spun it around. This is him trying to chase down Tyler Scarali. Remember, he had gotten around Scarali earlier. Scarali fought back. So here he goes down into the corner, catches a little bit of that curb. Car wants to rotate around, hits it, and then he does about a 17-point turn here.
And it is at the midway point of the race without Raymond Day apparently crashing. The past 3 weeks now, the trend continues. He spun the car again.
Oh my goodness, Raymond Day praying to have a clean race here. Brings that car down through the corner. What happened here?
Watch for it coming up. And as our producer and director for today, Joe Peak, would say, it's been a bad day. It's been a bad final half of this season.
Yeah, it really has. You can see just carried a little bit too much speed into the corner and threw it out wide. So that is going to put him all the way down into 7th place right now.
That's just mind-boggling to me. How is that possible for 3 straight weeks at the same time of the race, right at the halfway point, just absolutely lose control of the car? 1 DNF from it, and top 2 runs, instead looking to the back half of the top 10 as a result.
Well,
by the way, Ridgway got a spot up the road.
Yes, he did, and we're going to check that replay right now. So this is coming down, I believe, into turn 9 right there. That's turn 9 as they bring it down. Now, this is Juan Cofre directly in front of him. Oh, Cofre had a big off.
Is this tire wear, or what could be the factor here? All the drivers all of a sudden going from calm, cool, collected to right off the circuit.
I don't imagine it's tire wear, Justin. We may see the drivers just slightly overcooking their tires. The only thing I can think of here could be the potential that the wind is throwing them off. We saw this when they were at Hockenheim. We saw this a little bit last time out at Spa, where they are catching it. The wind is gusting between about 7 to 10 miles an hour here, and I think they may just be picking up a bad gust and it's throwing off the aero in these Formula 3 cars.
Couple pit stops, the 22 and the 88 just ducked on in, but for reference, that speed of the wind you're referring to is currently blowing. Essentially, for that area, we've seen a bit of the trouble in their faces, almost. In fact, it's starting to swirl away from their faces. To the southwest, it's blowing about parallel just about now to the straightaway leading up to Hanshurst, as well as that run out of Hugenholz. So keep that in mind with the wind as we take a look at Tevin again. Keep in mind, Tevin's already completed his pit service.
He has indeed. He's your highest pitter, and unless my eyes deceive me, he did actually take a fresh set of rubber there, and that may be just that he overcooked the tires when he had the spin and wanted to take it. He also needed some repairs as well.
Yes.
So kind of hitting 2 birds with 1 stone.
Exactly. I'm curious how this plays out, but the thing is, he might be at the highest around top 10 based on the interval and some of the pit deltas, maybe around top 12. Initially where he started this race. because the delta for those taking normal service, DJ, the fuel only call, 22 seconds. Overall in the lane, about 5 seconds in the stall.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll keep an eye here on Joey to see what he does, but we also check in on our leader here. Now, Justin, I'm doing some quick math here in my head, which is always a scary thought. If he were to pit now, he's got a lovely little gap that he could potentially come back into behind Broomhead and Scarali. He'd be a little close to them, but I've got to be thinking a little bit more if I'm Verity or Fournier, that there is a very nice gap of clean air between them that they can slot out into. You can also see there the Palacio responding to those times set by Verity, upping his pace here in the Netherlands.
Put it this way, the past 5 laps, that average, 1/10 quicker as Palacio nearly bobbles it around. An error factor for that potential strategy, the number 16, Barrett is coming up the road to lead the lap traffic. So at this point, we'll see if Palacio elects to come on down. No, keeps on going on forward. See if anyone else responds, though, amongst that battle for position. Especially with the traffic now about a corner up the road.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the big determining factor of when drivers decide to pit, as Verity sets the fastest lap of the race there, trying to close back in on that gap to your leader.
Raymond Day, by the way, just came in that time by from the top 7. So the 77 is now in for their scheduled stop after the respective spin just a couple laps ago for Day. And keep in mind, Raymond Day is a huge part of the team, not just with the esports side, but for Ninja Trader in general. What do you think is going through his mind knowing the team championship in part has swung from a massive lead to a big deficit, especially now with Daly being out? That's going to potentially grow even more, that deficit, entering the finale.
Well, it's one of those things, Justin, that you really just can't think about too much when you are behind the wheel of the car. You can't think about how a mistake is costing your team points. That kind of sends you down a little bit of a self-spiral. And what you have got to do is just pick up the pieces and keep going. Not stopping, just focusing on what's ahead of you and drive the wheels off that thing.
We'll see how far he can drive himself on forward. 37 seconds back of the race leader, will be about a net 15 seconds back if these deltas continue to fare out. Leader is now in. Palacio makes his way around the chicanes. Already also following on in. Fournier going for the overcut.
Well, Alex has got some clean track in front of him, so this might just work out for him as we watch Palacio and Verity come to rest in their pit box right now.
Just about everybody rolling on in. A quick stop of 4.8 for Palacio. Off and away. Can Verity get close enough, though, to close up a little bit? Near identical pit stop times, just about, in terms of the lane. But look at that stop in total, about a 0.4 of a second slower stop, in fact, for the 04 in the box.
Exactly, and so that could help him out a little bit as they get their way back out and up to speed. He has been able to cut the gap down to about 2 seconds as we watch Alex Fournier. Now, he has done perfectly here. He's going to be in clean air, and so he is just able to put down a fast lap time here and not have to worry about traffic.
Keep in mind that 16 is still 20-plus car lengths up the road before he reaches said traffic. Right at the very tippy end of the fuel window now. Nope, Broomhead is currently now in the back in the top 4 currently after his stops for the AM side. The AM leader is Ridgeway, who is now up to a race-high 4th. But now Fournier coming down the front straightaway now. 8 to go this time. Now into the pit lane. The traffic is joining him, though. Will that become a factor?
You read my mind, Justin. That's David Hebert right ahead of him. Now, I'm not sure if he will be able to beat Hebert out of the pits or if Hebert's just going to kind of slot out of the way. Palacio coming out of Ari Lyondike right now as Fournier comes to rest in his box. Palacio and Verity are by, and there goes Fournier. Oh.
He actually lost a lot of time there, in fact, DJ. That did not work out well for him. He was the only driver to make it to lap 20. Guess what? He is now a fair amount behind, and he still is stuck behind the traffic.
Yes, he is. So he's going to have to get by Verity and try to get that going even more at this point if he can. Still relatively close up at the top here as everybody's trying to just get this all sorted out.
Your handy dandy pocket calculators out, by the way, keep in mind, because as we talked about, with the way this stands, Fournier is still in the position to come away with the pro title, as long as there is no disastrous moments here in these final stages of the race. The AM side, though, keep in mind, entering today, Robert Ridgway was 41 points behind Michael Broomhead. He had already had a DNF and a DNS Ridgway earlier this season. Broomhead had a DNF that has his drop. That was in the opening race of the season. Now, you do the quick calculations with how things are playing out. At minimum, Ridgway gets 35 points. With where things are playing out for Broomhead, 4 points, scores 28 points. You gain 7 points before you factor in the bonus points. In turn, Ridgway, for what he's going to be able to do if this sticks, would reduce the gap to 34 to keep it alive to the final round.
Exactly, and he's really got to basically hope for a DNF or a terrible race out of Broomhead, because that last week cannot be counted as a drop week. Oh, that's one of the co-phrase around. That's Juan. Does that car look like it's crabbing a little bit?
Possibly, and that's a spot. That's a spot there for the AM class, is it not? That's the next car up in front of Broomhead that's having a problem here.
Yes, it is. So I may have spoken too soon on this. The mistake there from the Argentinian could put this back into position for Michael Broomhead. Looks like he just carries too much speed there into Tarzan and spins the car around. I am watching him out on track right now, Justin. Doesn't look like he's got any damage. I think that was him just being a little bit sensitive, trying to make sure that he didn't make any mistakes early on.
And now that may be the carrot on the stick for Michael Broomhead to pounce, because now our spin, and it is Colfray! Colfray back into the Armco, 2 big mistakes, and Broomhead now gets some valuable points from that.
He does indeed. I'm not sure what that's going to do to his overall time. We'll have to do the math, but that is going to make things a lot easier going into the final round for Michael Broomhead.
That would make it a 36-point separation before the bonus points. So that could be huge. Keep in mind, the AM poll counts for the bonus points. That went the way of Ridgway. Pushes that now back to 35. It could come down to which driver has the fastest lap and or the clean laps.
It could indeed, and I'm looking very quickly on the information that I have. Ridgway has been off track once, it looks like. I don't know if that includes any contact that he has gotten into. Broomhead also only has 1 off track, so that is the information that I have on that. We don't know the exact number of incidents, and we won't know that until the end of the race.
Remember, if you make 50% of the race distance and have 3 or less, you get an extra bonus point on top of things. As now, that essentially may be the saving grace if Ridgway wants a shot for the finale, mathematically. It's going to be a busy final few laps, coming up to 5 to go. Of note, Placio has just extended his gap from around 1.7 seconds to nearly 3 seconds in the span of a lap and a half.
Yeah, Justin, he is really pushing it. Verity was catching down on him and really bringing that gap down, able to grow the gap over the last 2 laps by about a 10th each time, so just pushing forward.
1.1, though.
Yeah.
That is huge. And it looks like at the very least there may have been a mistake that would have factored in. How about another 4/10 this time?
Well, that was a pullback in from Verity, so a little bit of a seesaw motion here going between these top 2 drivers. I just wonder if this is going to come down to a little bit of a bobble here from Verity or from Palacio that puts one another out of reach.
There is that possibility, as hearing there was an off track that may have been that factor where he ran a 1:29.9 on this 21st lap. We'll see what may have caused him to lose all that time, and if I'm seeing what I think it may have been, there may have been some traffic coming into play. You see that car he already passed? Go back a few corners, guess where he reached the car?
The traffic giveth and the traffic taketh away, Justin. Yeah, that is the 67 of Daniel Barnett. Got a little bit held up coming out of Hans Ernst. No fault there for Barnett. He was just taking his line. Verity just had more speed than him coming into the corner, and that caused him to check up. There's the off track. I think he was just distracted by that purple and green machine from behind him.
And that may be the breathing room Lazio needs. But the thing is, Verity has also just picked up an error a few tenths this lap alone. Verity has put in the full charge to try and see if he can find his way towards victory lane in this one. Down to 4 to go coming up. Now, let's go on board here as he tries to eat into this deficit and quickly. Keep in mind, Verity, one race win. That was all the way back in round 5.
It was indeed. He was a little bit quicker there through the first sector, and on the whole, on that last lap, was 0.5 of a second faster than Palacio ahead of him. So yeah, that 1.1 seconds loss to Palacio, very clearly just a glitch because of that traffic. Let's see how he is through sector 2. A little bit slower, gave up almost a tenth there.
Compare that to Fournier. Fournier's lost a second over the past few laps after his stop. He lost 5 seconds to this respective grouping before. Coming up to 3 to go this time. Verity's still keeping things fairly close now. Down to 2.2, make it 2.1 on this corner exit, back up to 2.2 the interval.
He's definitely trying to close it in the best that he can. Trying to see what he's got. Lost a little bit of time through the 4th sector there on the straight. This is where Verity had the problem last time, but he's got the gap down to about 2.1 seconds or so as they break down into Ari Lyondike. He needs to be within about a second to get the full effect of the draft, and he's got 3 laps to do it.
That was a great corner, keep in mind, through Ari Lyondike. And keep in mind that run through Kumho. I've noticed this with a bit of qualifying and a bit with this race. Drivers have been able to put their left side tires on part of the grass to be able to get a little bit quicker on the entry. And in some cases, it does not count towards the incident count, and it leads to a validated lap. Verity seems to be using every single trick in the book to close up this gap. 2.5 to go.
Well, that's exactly what he's got to do to be able to close it. Waiting to see the next sector times. Lost a big chunk there, 0.2 of a second. Palacio responding.
Palacio trying to extend it on forward. Remember, Verity, though, has been able to close the gap within sector 3 the past couple laps. That may not be enough, though, with things going back the direction of the 194. Of note, Joey Tevin has just had an issue in the battle for 11th. He's now dropped outside of draft range in 13th, meanwhile, in the mid-pack.
Has indeed, and we'll go back and check out that replay here. This is coming out of Ari Lyondike for Joey. Gets a couple of tires onto the grass there, but able to keep the car back up and straight. I think what happens here, Justin, he probably just carries a little bit too much speed into Tarzan. Yep, and that sends Joey around.
That time, not able to avoid the tree. Bad metaphor there. Meanwhile, coming up, under 2 laps to go, Palacio now has his gap under 1.7 seconds.
Yeah, Verity looks very, very strong in the closing sectors of the circuit here, Justin. Really, really able to gain some good speed and get that gap under. That will be crucial because that's where he wants to be gaining on the last lap. Now, 1.7 seconds is a lot to make up over a lap and a half, but Verity is on an absolute stonker here.
Verity wants any sort of chance to try and battle for this race victory. Lap and a half to go, now through sector 2. Look at that interval going down a little bit for that braking mark. Staying stagnant though throughout the rest of the sector. It looks like around 1.5 seconds. He needs to gain half a second to get within drafting range.
He does indeed, and there's only really one heavy braking zone that he can try to get some mega speed through. Was about 0.04 of a second slower through sector 4. Now this is a quick little sector 5 that they're going to come on. It's mainly just the Hans Ernst corner. Let's see how that compares. He was slower again, the gap hovering still at about 1.5 seconds.
Coming up to the white flag this time by, coming up to the final lap at the penultimate race of the season, the PRL Open Wheel Series. Its 2021 Season 4 campaign, Palacio has seen the white flag here in PRL action. Still 1.5 seconds to gap. Palacio qualified on the pole and has been a rocket all night long, looking for his first win of the season if he can hold on here.
Indeed he is, Julio, one of the mainstays here in the Precision Racing League. We're used to seeing him in a wide variety of cars, and he is just absolutely pushing, trying to respond the best that he can. Verity was faster through the first sector. In the second sector, Verity lost some time. The gap is now down to 1.3 seconds. I think Palacio, if he can just hold on to this, he's got the shot.
Half a lap to go. 1.3 seconds now to separation. Just need to minimize the mistakes to be able to come away with his first victory this season. Verity pushing hard, closed up about a 10th throughout that corner, but will it be enough? Couple hard braking zones to go for Palacio. Palacio takes the curbing aggressively, picks up some more time. That should just about do it. Final couple of corners. Julio Palacio dominates at Zandvoort. He comes out of the final corner to score his first victory of the season. He wins round 9 of the campaign. But behind him, the celebration can start. A Pro Drivers' Championship goes the way of Alex Fournier. He finishes third to clinch the title.
And Robert Ridgway crosses over to take the AM class victory win. It looks like Ritter's Day and Broomhead will finish behind him. I think, Justin, if my math is correct, that means that we still have a shot of a title fight going into the final round for Broomhead.
Those exact calculations are going to be very critical. And you have to feel for Verity. He had a rocket today. If it wasn't for traffic, we might have been talking about a different winner here.
Yeah, very much so. I think that one lap with Barnett that he just got caught up behind him and Hans Ernst, that is what cost him the race win here today. But that should take nothing away from the performance of Steven Verity. It was a heck of a drive out here for the 0-4.
And you can say the same about the performance this season from Fournier. How about an 8 top 5 of the season coming in today now? As a result of this finish, I'll close out that fight. We'll break down everything when we come back. You're watching GSRC from Circuit Park Zandvoort here on iRacing.
Hey there, I'm Nicholas Dubois, co-founder of Advanced SimRacing. We are a Canadian company. So what we did here today is for a real petrol head. He's really passionate about cars, as you can see behind me. We did a turnkey solution for him based on his needs. We try to gather as much information as we can on our client. And like we did today, we install a D-box system. We install ultra-wide cube control steering wheel. We try to provide the best quality for your budget. So let's say if you want a budget of 10 grand, we're gonna give you something that's the best for 10 grand. If you want 20 grand, then we always try to stay within your boundaries. We do try to make it as easy as possible. So the client, once we install everything, it's pretty much gonna be a turnkey. So he's gonna press start on his computer, and right after, we'll try to explain everything, how it goes, how it works, and then he's ready to go. Our aluminum is from USA. Treated in Canada, cut in Canada. So we do sand all our aluminum piece just to make sure the powder coat sticks to it. And that's one of the reasons why we use powder coat, is to make sure you have the best aluminum finish in the industry. And our quality is beyond what you can get with any other competitors right now. We are really, really passionate about all the gear, all the cockpits, all the sim hardware. And that's why we want to create something that's really gonna reflect our passion into our product. Come visit us at advancedsimracing.com. You can always reach us if you have any questions. You can call us, you can text us, you can go on Facebook, like our page, ask us questions over there. and we'll make sure to answer every questions there is. We are very passionate about what we do, and we try to make it as easier for you to go into the sim racing world, because there's a lot of gear, there's a lot of options, but let us guide you through your process, and let's hope you'll be an advanced sim racing customer.
Hey guys, welcome to ASR. I'm Nick, this is Marc-Andre.
Hey everybody, so we're just here to announce that in this current season of PRL, we'll be giving away 2 ASR3s to 2 lucky winners. So stay competitive, keep racing fair, and may the best man win.
Welcome back to Zandvoort for post-race coverage of the Precision Racing League and its Open Wheel Series, the penultimate race of the 2021 Season 4 campaign, where it was a barn burner. An exciting finish that's seen Julio Placio come away with victory number 1 of the season for him. Then, as you see the board shuffle things about, it's Verity who finished second, with Alex Fournier clinching the driver's title for the Pro class. Third place run today. Robert Ridgway has just made things interesting for the AM side. Per rough estimates, right now, it is just barely mathematically eligible with a 34-point differential heading into the finale compared to Broomhead. Broomhead, for comparison, finished in 6th. Stephen Ritters and Raymond Day remain inside that sandwich between those two drivers, with Ritters in AM, Day in Pro. Then Screwally finished in 8th. Then it's Nick Horvath with a very quiet 17th to 9th run today, followed by Takeshi Kita recovering from an incident DJ.
In 11th, it was Owen McLaughlin, followed by Joseph Tevin. Manuel Vargas was behind him in 13th, followed by Richards in 14th. Adam McDonald came home 15th, followed by James Holland and Dave Peterson. Donald Olson was 18th, followed by Daniel Barnett, the first driver a lap down, and driving with a heavy heart tonight, David Hebert rounds out your top 20.
Then it is a very quiet night for the driver in 21st position, Duhamel, finishing in that spot. James Carter, after some trouble early, finished 22nd. Then the fireworks began on downward, because Juan Cofre kept things interesting when it came to the point side. Then you had Byron Daly crash after trying to go for a big send with Michael Cofre on the left side of the racetrack into the corner. Matthew Gunderson was amongst those who crashed early on in this race during the madness in Sector 1. The drivers who also didn't finish the race were involved in an incident include Tyler Gore, Roberto Cofre, and Jonathan Alomar. That's a look top to bottom at your running order today. Of note, Rod Klenar did not make it to the racetrack with DNS for this evening, but it's Julio Placio who comes away with the victory today from the pole position. Dominant speed, and in the end, able to hold on the differential 1 second. How are you feeling about this run? 25 to 27 laps tonight.
Yeah, thanks. It was a lot of fun. I mean, congrats to Stephen and Alex on the podium. I mean, Stephen put a lot of pressure there at the end, and I was just working the gap. This is a track where very easy to make a mistake and end up in the wall. So it was kind of balancing that gap and just trying to hang on. But yeah, it's a lot of fun, and it's been a while, so I'm very, very glad to get the win.
How did you feel about the pressure coming from behind after the pit stop window because the 04, prior to reaching traffic, was catching up and quickly. He had to recover about a second or two lost from the traffic to get back to that 1 second interval for the checker.
Yeah, there was a lot of pressure, and as you may or may not have seen, I'm not really good at pit stops, so it's kind of something that I tried to work on. So the fact that what I came in with is what I went out with, it was a little bit, I felt I had a little bit of a buffer there. So what I did is, in the middle part before the pit stop, I pushed the hardest, and then I figured if I had a gap, from the pit stop on, I could try to manage it and hold on, and that's the way that it worked out. So I guess everything had to line up to make it happen.
Now, with one race to go in the season, looking to close things out strong, of course. With this, it was your first victory of the campaign. How would you describe your season as a whole for SRT Esport?
Yeah, it's been a season where I started driving the car last season, and I'm slowly starting to get a hang of it. I made some changes on the setup, which I think made a difference, and kind of starting to run a little bit more towards the front. So definitely have improved, and look forward to continue to improve and kind of race with all these great folks. They're just a great bunch to work with.
Who do you want to thank for the run tonight?
Yeah, I want to thank obviously SRT, GSRC, and PRL, and my nephew Hunter, who's been cheering me on. He's in college at the University of Florida, and he was texting me the whole way. So I want to say hi to him too.
Hopefully you're able to focus on the road while that came into play. Congratulations on the run.
Thank you. Appreciate it, guys.
Again, Lacio coming away with the class victory today on the pro side in the overall victory, but now ready to be joined by your Pro Drivers Championship winner, Alex Fournier, with the podium today, and as a result of a crash from Byron Daly, has mathematically clinched the title. Alex, how does it feel to be a champion this season?
Oh, it's feel good. It was a beautiful season. F3 is such a beautiful car to race, and Julio and Stefan give me a run for my money this year, so very fun.
Of course, the past few weeks, the momentum has been strong. You came in tonight with 3 straight victories that helped solidify this gap. What were some of the main challenges, though, to try and get things played out and to get yourself into this mathematical positioning?
Finish the race. In F3, it's easy to have DNF. So let's say that today with this track, I was very happy to just finish the race without incident.
How would you describe this season with this car compared to in seasons past? What were some of the things that you felt went differently compared to your past runs in the campaigns here and with this car over the past few years?
Well, I guess that I've gained experience and find some setups to race with that car and be fast. That I think it's the difference between last year's.
Interesting to say the very least, but a strong run for you and your organization. Now, with this, I want to ask this quick question before we wrap things up. First of all, with one more race, your thoughts on the next race to close up the calendar?
Well, the next race is it's at Red Bull Ring. It's one of my favorite tracks, so I can't wait to race there and push the 45-minute race. It will be a blast.
Anyone you want to thank for being a part of your championship run?
Well, my teammates, some of the guys are pushing me to go faster each week, and my friend who pushed me to do this interview today.
I believe your friend actually said that he forced you to come here. Thank you for taking the time to celebrate your championship with us.
Thank you.
Alex Fournier coming away with the podium today and a title as well. A big championship for him, DJ, but a big drive for the person you're with next.
Indeed, Stephen Verity, you had to fight your way up through there, and I guess first and foremost, how was it out there?
Hey, yeah, it was really fun tonight. I find it to be, an enjoyable track to drive. The differences are in, hundredths and maybe tenths. So it's pretty fun to get in the zone and race around here. So it was a fun race up at the front. I was happy to make up a couple spots. I definitely had the pace. I think I was definitely catching Julio. Got slowed up by traffic a little bit. But all in all, really fun race. Very, very enjoyable evening.
Well, it was certainly enjoyable to watch. And I did want to ask you about those last couple of laps. It looked like you had that outright pace to be able to close. How hard were you pushing there? And did you think you could close them down?
With more time, I'm certain I could have closed them down. I lost a second and change to traffic, maybe like 6 laps from the end, which is a little frustrating because that's what I ended up losing the race by. But I was pushing very hard. The car was on the edge. I was taking half a car width of grass on the entry to the final corner to eke out the final hundredths. So those are the kind of like risks that you can take, I guess, when you're not fighting for the championship. And I was just pushing and trying to catch.
Well, you perfectly segued me into my next question there, man. Going into the Red Bull Ring next weekend, obviously a much easier track to pass on. No championship implications. That's wrapped up. Is that going to change the way you come into the race, or is everything basically just going to be the same?
No, I mean, it's definitely the same. Did the championships wrapped up? I presume Alex won then.
Yes, he did. He was able to wrap it.
Well, awesome. Congratulations to Alex. As you can see, I honestly don't look at the standings because I'm just coming here to race and have fun. I assumed Alex was winning. So no, I will approach it in the exact same way, and it's a really fun track. So very much looking forward to that one as well.
I know we certainly are. It's one of my favorite tracks to call a race on. But anybody you want to thank for this second place charge here today?
Yeah, definitely. Just thanks to Rust Racing, all those guys. Great support. Thanks to y'all for putting the broadcast on, and PRL for running the league.
Well, we are more than happy to do so, Steven. That was Steven Verity, your second place finisher out here today. And now, Justin, I believe you've caught up with our AM winner of today's race, Robert Ridgway.
Yes, indeed. Hello, indeed. First things first, Robert. Very quick pace. You dominated the AM class today for Atomic Racing. How would you describe your run today and having to plan things out to be able to have this pace, but also the buffer from the rest of the traffic?
A little bit of luck, a little bit of good setup, and it was all consistency. I just got a good flow and kept it together at the beginning and just held it together through the rest and had fun fighting with Frey there for a little bit. He was making me nervous.
Yeah, it was very interesting to see some of the wild battles involving the co-race today. Unfortunately, all of them finished in the DNF category. But in terms of things in terms of the track in the championship, keep in mind, today you needed to have a run that was very stellar to keep the mathematical eligibility. You just have barely kept that, unofficially around 34 points entering the finale. What's that now going to impact for your approach now for the finale?
Man, I'm just gonna do the best I can each time. I was hoping, nothing, no ill will on Broomhead, but I was hoping, something stopped working with his car there. And I was doing so well. I was like, oh, I got a chance, but I'll have to hope for it next week and try to get up there and get bonus points and everything. So, but I'm happy just to be up this high up this second season with y'all.
I have to ask this: the next race, Red Bull Ring, very new circuit to the iRacing platform. It was described by the most recent person to speak with us as their favorite racetrack. How would you describe Red Bull Ring?
Red Bull Ring give you wings. Nah, so last season was Red Bull Ring. It was the first one I won with PRL, and so I like Red Bull Ring now. It was the first time I had raced it really. So yeah, big fan. Hopefully I can do another one of those, but we'll see.
Anyone you want to thank for the run tonight?
Oh, everybody got to thank the team, Atomic Racing, everybody on the team. James Carter, Joey Tevin, Takeshi Kita, Colin Heffernan. Thank the family, the Nays Pancakes. I got to thank all of you guys for putting this on. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Congratulations, the run for you tonight.
Thank you.
Once again, Robert Ridgway coming away with the M-Class W. It's worth noting, as talked about, Michael Broomhead has to essentially make sure no mistakes for the finale now, DJ, and I think he may be finding that out now after burning it down after the race.
Indeed, Michael, by our estimation, it looks like that you have just barely missed out on clenching it here today, but still looked like a pretty eventful race for you out in Zandvoort.
Close. That's what I was hoping for. Red Bull Ring's not really my place, so I was hoping to get it this time. But yeah, those guys were super fast, and obviously I had a few troubles with my general pace and one of the car race. So I just had to take what I could get, really.
Well, going into this final race, by our calculations, you've got a 34-point advantage. So certainly within official, yes, we just got the confirmation. It is 34 points that you hold over your competitors. Is that going to change the way you come into this and approach the race at the Red Bull Ring? Or are you going to be a little bit more conservative about just, I got to bring the car home for the championship?
Well, I hate to do what Hamilton did that one time where he just overtook somebody on the last corner. That's just too many nerves for my liking. So I'll just do what I do. Hope for the best. I got to score, 3 points, I guess, if Ridgway maximizes his potential. So, that's not too bad. That's doable. So I'm moderately confident, let's put it that way.
Well, all right. And also, I'm just hearing that your team is up in the team's championship by 5 points going into the last round. So congratulations on that as well. But anybody you'd like to thank here for this run tonight?
Yeah, of course. Britannia. Obviously, we're in a train there, so we brought home some good points. So obviously, it's over Ninja Trader's Pro Team, so that's going to go down to the wire. That'll be fun. But Walden International School, Mountain Range Marketing, EliseLight.com, Mimi, the family, and yeah, Robert, he's so fast. Let's go into the last race and let's have some fun. And whoever the best one is, let's see what happens. But yeah, thanks, guys, and I'll see you next week.
We will see you indeed, Michael. That was Michael Broomhead, your 7th place finisher here today. Justin?
An eventful race, to say the very least, and an eventful championship run for Alex Fournier. Plenty of celebrations holding tonight, while others have to hold off after a fun night at the Red Bull Ring. We'd like to thank you for tuning in to tonight's action, meanwhile, from Zandvoort. We also take the time to thank the sponsors for this series. First, ASR. They design and build the sturdiest and most durable aluminum profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. Visit them at advancedsimracing.com. RaceLab. It helps you to improve your driving skills. Start using it now for free at RaceLab.app. ButtKicker. Feel what you've been missing at thebutkicker.com. SIMMSA. Find out how you can bridge the gap between virtual and real motorsports at SIMMSA.net. And by Ninja Trader. Visit Ninja Trader and get started with a risk-free trading simulator to start tracking your performance. We'd also like to thank the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed on screen. Additional thanks go to Jude Law, and provides her wonderful music, I should say. Check out her Bandcamp for more of her awesome work. Thanks to the team today as well in DJ, Joe, and Dougie. You can find out more info about GSRC at globalsimracingchannel.com without the or through social media. Also, check out our merchandise store at simracingmerch.com/GSRC. Keep a link in the description below. And don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel as well, so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. As talked about with some of the drivers, the next race closes out the campaign, and it's the Red Bull Ring that gets the honor of closing this season. Who will come away with the victories? Who will come away with the AM Championship? And which team will take home the hardware? Find out 8:45 p.m. Eastern Time, November the 25th. We also have upcoming races for other series currently listed on your screen, so be sure to check those out and mark them down in your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.